to the Grappling Bulletin podcast. I'm your host, Corey Stockton, here yet again with Connor Joshin. Connor, what's up?
Oh, nothing much, man. I'm excited about Pans. We got some good jiu-jitsu to talk about. How's your weekend been, though?
Yeah, it's a lot of work, of back to the lifting regime again, doing some training in the garage, and just polishing up the old wheelhouse.
I like to see that. This is the journey of Swole Corey, so I think this is week one of it. You may not see all the gains quite yet, but, it's coming along. He has continued to be bullying everyone he can within the office, through the halls, just kicking people downstairs left and right. So it's good to have you. I'm glad we're on camera. Anything you do now, we're in front of people, but excited to have you back, man.
And as you mentioned, when we talked about this in detail last week, just how incredible this season's Pans is going to be, right? We mentioned a lot last week about the return of Nicholas Mirigali. We've also been talking about, other big-name athletes getting involved, Talson Suarez, Diego Pazo, Diego Hayes. The list goes on and on. But I think we need to start the show mentioning, as we have several times this year already, mentioning Tainan Dalpera. Yeah. And not particularly his skill. I think it comes in this and his skill are in tandem. His 55-0 IBJJF record, his incredibly high submission rate. But I want to talk today about just how small the middleweight division is at Pans. And before we get into that, that's not to say that Pans in general, as a whole, has gotten smaller. In fact, this is, according to something I read by the IBJJF this morning, this is the biggest Pans in history. The most signed up for, the most registered Pans in history. Some of the divisions, including divisions that are generally small, like roosterweight, have 20-plus athletes in them. But middleweight, 14.
Yeah, that's amazing to see. We're always excited to have more and more athletes filling out all of the divisions across Pans. But like you said, we have been honing in on one of the biggest names in the IBJJF, one of the, scariest names in the IBJJF, Tainan Dalpera. Not only will he go out there and win him some, world championships, but he's going to get some highlight reels on the way. He's going to teach, a bunch of 12-year-olds how to do the finishing move he hits in world championships. And now he's back at it, and it does seem that, not to say people are running from him, but somehow there's been a coincidence that the division seems to be a lot less stacked than normal. So just before we get into it, what you're watching now is
Tainan Dalpera. The boys Trey and Chase went out to AOJ just a couple days ago to shoot with the Art of Jiu-Jitsu in their final preparation for Pans. We got to catch up with Tainan and the rest of the crew there. They're sending out a huge squad, but yeah, surprising to me to see how small the middleweight division is, right? And as you said, you can't say for certain that athletes are running away from the middleweight division, but you've got to think, right? 2-time world champion, 2-time Pan champion, 2-time European champion, undefeated with a 72% submission rate. Tainan Dalpera would be the person that you run from if you're hoping to make it to the top of the podium. You might not want to use the word unstoppable or unbeatable or whatever, but Tainan Dalpera is a scary animal here, and he's going to end up with less and less opponents, I think, as his reign continues, which leaves him with just 13 men in his division. But let's put that in context for a second, right? Because in 2019, we went back and read through the numbers. 2019, there were 28 athletes registered for the middleweight division at Pans. That's before Tainan was even a brown belt. He was a purple belt at the time. In 2020, his last competition as a brown belt, the day he got his black belt, there were 25 athletes registered in the middleweight division at Pans. Then in Tainan's first appearance at Pans as a black belt, again, 25 athletes registered in 2021. Last year, when Tainan made his run for the second Pans title, there were 24 athletes. This year, it's been reduced almost by half, right? 14 athletes registered for Pans in the middleweight division, which has been dominated by this man, not the child there, but the man spotting him, Tainan Dalpera.
Man, I would love it, though. I love the idea that we cut to that. That's exciting, and like you had said, that is a stark contrast from the year before. That's almost half of the amount of athletes from 2022 Pans that are here and trying to take on the 2023 division. There are some athletes that we had talked about that maybe hadn't moved out of middleweight that have since made the migration up to medium heavyweight or otherwise. But this puts Tainan in a place where his, three-peat Pans gold at black belt is actually, it seems like he has a very clear shot to the finish. Not only does he have a clear shot because, technically and competition-wise, Tainan Dalpra is who he is, right? But even then, like, the bracket being so much smaller means he only has 3 matches till he is, on the podium with a gold medal around his neck.
Yeah, so he's going to have a much kind of shorter trajectory to the finals there. He will not have a match on Saturday, right? He starts right in at the quarterfinals on Sunday. And because of that, actually, a lot of those other athletes who want to stay at middleweight get a benefit, right? Because everybody's moved out, they have a shorter trek to the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. And this isn't a case of these athletes not knowing who Tainan is or having matched up with him plenty, because that has been the case. Some of the people that have maybe moved to different weight classes may have faced Tainan 2, 3, 4 times. It's not like anyone in the IBJJF hasn't had their shot at him and just couldn't make it happen. But this year, when we're talking about Tainan's performance at, IBJJF Pans, the question to me is, with such a smaller talent pool, with maybe a shorter move or a shorter path to, a gold medal, who in the bracket, if you got to put your money on someone giving Tainan a run for his money, someone usurping the throne, who can it be at at this Pans tournament?
There are 2 names you called out here, and I'm interested in both of them. Rolando Sampson, Atos black belt, but long-time black belt, and he's been kind of off the scene for a little bit. He's stepped away, but he returned to competition last November and has been doing really well since. And before I get into why Rolando is so impressive as a potential test, I want to talk about the other one here, Tarek Hopstock. Right? Tarek had a match with Tainan back at Euros. He lost that match via submission. That was Euros 2022. But both of these athletes have something that can offer a little bit of a test to Tainan, in that they're going to go out there swinging, right? And that's something that, it makes sense why athletes play cautious against Tainan. Tainan is one of the best out there right now. But the only way to handle an athlete like that is to just throw everything out there and see if something lands. That's why I will always watch Tommy Lengaker versus Tainan Dalpra, right? The 2 times they met up at black belt, Tommy just swung for the fences, and he fell by submission both times, but he did so impressively. He, I think on both occasions, nearly took Tainan's back.
Yeah, and that's super exciting to me because, people are always going to remember Tainan's runs, whenever he's making it through, especially if he does end up with gold. But like you said, we're still talking about when Tommy Langecker makes his shot at him, right? So even if you're not getting the gold, but you are going out there and laying it on the line, that's the kind of jiu-jitsu that at least jiu-jitsu nerds like Corey and I are going to remember for a year or 2 to come. So super fun. And, if he does run into Tariq, it could be in the finals, which, maybe that's a great storyline for Tarek's, comeback victory over him, if you can pull that off. Hats off to everyone that has stuck around in the middleweight division, despite the reign of terror that AOJ continues to hold on to.
So there is a kind of collateral consequence to Tainan coming in this middleweight division and watching everybody kind of flee out of it. Is that generally people don't flee down because you're already cutting weight to make middle.
Yeah.
Tends to be that they move up.
Yep.
And what that means is the medium heavyweight division is absolutely loaded.
And loads of fun.
Yeah. And I want to get into some of our favorite potential matchups in that division.
Let's do it.
And kind of before we get there, important to shout out that while the numbers in the middleweight division have been declining, the number of the medium heavyweight division, this is the most populated medium heavyweight division in the past 5 years, right? Generally hovers around 15, 16, maybe 20. This year there are 31 competitors registered at medium heavy, and some of the first round matches are just off the wall exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot of names here. Not only are there a lot of names here because it's just voluminous, there's 31 of them, but there's plenty of people that you guys are going to recognize, whether it's, people we've had from the Who's Number One circuit on, Elder Cruz. I know he's obviously done his thing, but, you also got Sebastian Williams. You just got a lot of really awesome first-round names.
So call that one out, right? Because that is a huge first-round match. Sebastian Williams versus Elder Cruz. Both of these guys have not the exact same style, but the exact same energy and pace, which is going to be really interesting to watch take off in the medium heavyweight division. Elder, of course, phenomenal wrestler, as is Sebastian Williams. Sebastian Williams has a great kind of takedown passing game. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting here. We're going to see Elder Cruz coming on into the black belt scene. Obviously, he's done black belt competition before, but last year at IBJJF Worlds, he was the brown belt world champion. Now he's coming into the black belt division here at medium heavyweight in the second to last seed. So it's going to be really fun. He is getting no shortcuts, even though he had such a great brown belt performance, and having him in such a fun first round matchup should be interesting. Sometimes Elder Cruz is one of the athletes that, though, I'm a huge fan of him. There can be, it can be hit or miss with some of his matches, especially because he has such a, hard, top-heavy pressure style that if an athlete can, take out that dimension of his game, sometimes, that puts him on the back foot where it's really difficult to, struggle back against, the highest level competitors. It's not just Elder Cruz that's coming in from the brown belt, brown belt worlds or, the brown belt scene. Wanderson Ferreira, he is our 2023 brown belt double gold champion from Euros, and he is now also coming in at quite a low seed. I believe he is just one seed above Elder Cruz, and he also, has a really tough road ahead of him in this brown belt Pans bracket. He's coming in midway through the season, you know what I mean, and switching from that brown belt to the black belt competition scene. Very difficult to do.
And so Anderson's first match against Matthias Spirandelli of Alliance, really cool matchup to me because Spirandelli, very kind of decorated, seasoned, veteran black belt, knows how to hang in the pocket, knows how to kind of draw those matches out and put the pressure of the clock on an opponent. And Anderson, he has that pace, right? He's not going to let the clock get to him. He's going to try and really put an energy on his opponents. His outside passing is second to none as far as rookie black belts go. He moves so much, and somebody as patient as Spira is gonna try and drag Anderson into tough, deep waters. But it'd be really interesting to see how Anderson steps into this division, because it's not just this matchup, right? If he moves on, I think he has. If he moves on, it's going to be another one of these tough matches. Let's just kind of call some of the other ones out. Francisco Lowe versus Mauricio Oliveira, another fast-paced versus slow grinding pace style. I'm really interested in this one too. Murillo Santana versus Bruno Matthias.
Yeah, absolutely. Murillo Santana. Whoever wins that one will get a potential round 2 matchup with Jansen Gomez, assuming Jansen, has his way in his first round, which is really fun. I think anytime we can see a legend like Murillo, someone that has made their mark on the jiu-jitsu competition scene in such a wild and prolific way, then we get to see, potential matchups with guys like Jansen Gomez, who are the next generation of black belt athlete that are going to be terrorizing all of these old heads for basically the rest of their careers. So this is definitely going to be a clash of generations. I think additionally, aside from Murillo Santana and Bruno Matthias being a really fun first-round matchup, I am excited about that stylistic matchup if Murillo can get the win and then match up with Jansen. Can he slow down Jansen? Can he, that's a really fun storyline for me and a potential, next up, even looking past round 1.
We're looking now at 2 of the heavyweight matchups. We just saw Roberto Jimenez versus Adam Wardzinski, and I can't wait for that matchup. Adam Wardzinski, of course, a decorated veteran black belt. Roberto Jimenez, we talked about him last week, kind of a weight bender, right? He's been down at lightweight. He's been up at heavyweight. He's going to be up at heavyweight again at Pans. And his style versus Adam Wardzinski, you know what Adam wants to do. You know what Roberto wants to do. Adam wants to get underneath in that butterfly guard. Roberto wants to take the back from just about anywhere.
Yep.
So it's really just these two guys going head to head. Neither one of them backs down. They are both willing to open themselves up. And then we just saw here as well, Devontae Johnson versus Caio Vinicius. Now, Caio Vinicius may be flying under the radar for some, but he is the brown belt absolute world champion from 2022, a student of Felipe Pena. Really dangerous brown belt, now black belt out of Gracie Barra against Devontae Johnson. Again, one of these guys who's somehow become a veteran, right? It seems like not too long ago that he was a rookie black belt, but now, of course, at the very top of that super heavyweight division, heavyweight, which now he's down at, is loaded. I think the big threat there is Felipe Andrew. But that division stacked top to bottom. Really excited for everything that can come in both the heavyweight and medium heavyweight divisions. I think they've turned out a lot of great potential action. Any other matches jump out to you as far as just first round stuff we want to get into?
Yeah, I think I saw one over here in the women's middleweight division. Elizabeth Clay versus Raquel Canuto. I know, Elizabeth Clay is matched up with essentially most of the women's jiu-jitsu community at some point. She is one of our most our most active competitors. But this is a really fun one. This is a rematch from Raquel versus Elizabeth Clay back in, I believe it was 2022 American Nationals, where they met up in the finals at 69 kg, same weight class they're at now, and Clay won a 4-point victory over Raquel Canuto, which I know, Raquel obviously always a super game competitor, always down. She's always super fired up when she's going out there. So I can't imagine she's super excited that there's a loss under her record coming from Clay. You love to see athletes be able to get that back.
Yeah, and it's a great stylistic matchup, right? Just because Elizabeth Clay, a very submission-oriented athlete, right? She does not tend to play that points game. Neither does Raquel Canuto. Raquel wants to finish her opponent by submission, and she will kind of leave herself open sometimes in order to do so. So that kind of matchup nearly always produces a submission one way or the other. And the fun part is you don't really know exactly who's going to win anytime. That's some of the first-round matchups. We got a full list of our favorites up on the Grappling Bulletin article, which came out this morning. And, of course, go scroll through the brackets. There's some surprises waiting in, especially at featherweight, lightweight, medium heavyweight, heavyweight. So from top to bottom in the black belt divisions, I think those first rounds on Saturday are really going to surprise a lot of people. But I want to talk a little bit about maybe some of the potential finals that we can see. We mentioned at the beginning how exciting it would be to see Tainan versus Tarek in the final again, because of what Tarek brings, because of the ever-present threat that Tainan offers. Any other potential finals that interest you?
Oh, man, you're going to have to lead the discussion on this one. Let me find my absolute favorite before I start talking out of the side of my head. But I would love to hear what you're thinking on that one.
Yeah. I'm really tuned in to the light featherweight division. There are a couple names that jump out to me. Don't really know who ends up where there, but let's just kind of highlight the four maybe front runner light featherweights. Diego Basso, Diogo Hayes. I think that's a potential final. Diogo has to get through Malachi Edmond in the semifinal. That is not easy. And Pato, I believe, needs to get through Mario Alvarado. And who else is there?
I can pull it up.
There's one other athlete in that light featherweight division I'm sleeping on right now. But yeah, I've been following the light featherweight division at Pans really closely for a while because of all of the big names. Oh, it's how did I lost it? Man,
we'll get it by the end of this.
He's gonna kill me. It's Mayhem.
Mayhem, yeah.
Mayhem.
We've been talking about him for a while. I don't think he can hold it too much against you. I'm excited for a lot of these. If you guys have not checked out, I'm just going to drop this somewhere. If you guys have not checked out the Grappling Bulletin article, it does have a pretty comprehensive list, like Corey was saying, not just of round one matchups, but also those potential Sunday matchups that we're kind of looking through here. And even down here at the quarterfinals, this isn't exactly what you had asked, but this Eric Muniz, Stephen Banta question mark match, Stephen Banta's is obviously one of the most decorated athletes across the brown belt scene, and this is kind of something we had talked about earlier. Elder Cruz coming off of a 2022 brown belt competition run. Same with some of our other athletes. So it's really fun, whether it's Elder Cruz, whether it's Wanderson Ferreira, whether it's Stephen Bonta, to see, what's it really like? Like, how much does a brown belt world championship mean when you're talking about black belt competition scene? Are they going to seed that fairly, and can some of these athletes, take advantage of maybe going under the radar, having maybe not the highest seed despite having really strong competition in the brown belt, and take advantage and snipe somebody?
Two other quarterfinals. Well, one quarterfinal, one final that catch my eye as well. Quarterfinal, Nicholas Mergali versus Roosevelt Souza.
Any match when Mergali's on the mat, you better be rushing over to watch it.
And especially because Roosevelt Souza is another one of those athletes, right? Does not like to play that points, I'm going to score and hold you down game. Roosevelt Souza is trying to win by submission. He's trying to take your ankle or your head off, really. But to say it nicely, yes, he's looking by submission, and Mergali tends to feed off that game, right? Because that's exactly what Mergali's mission is in every single match. So you're not going to see a cagey game, or at least I would expect not to see a cagey matchup. I think this one ends quick, one way or the other, because Roosevelt has that devastating footlock, because Mergali has that insane choke game that has only been developed by his training with Danaher. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go back to the All Access that dropped on, I think it was Friday of this week, with Nicholas Mergali and John Danaher. We get to see a little bit of Nicholas doing something that in his gi career he has never done.
Yeah.
Play takedowns.
Ooh.
Mergali is a long time, I'm going to pull guard, I'm going to try the omoplata, the loop choke, and then sweep you, get on top, and end your day.
Yep.
But Mergali playing takedowns adds just another level of threats. Now, whether he brings that out at Pans or whether he decides to go back to the old tricks, you've got to watch for yourself. But either way this plays out, it's going to be exciting to watch. And then one more. Now, a lot of things have to go right for this matchup to hit. But in the final, in the women's lightweight division, we could see Fiona Davies versus Louise Monterra. Fiona kind of pulled a fast one on us. She registered at featherweight and then jumped up to lightweight. But offers all sorts of compelling matchups, including this potential final versus the, I want to say, 8-time Pan champion Louise Monterra.
Yeah, that's going to be certainly a fun one. Obviously, everyone is well aware of who Fiona Davies is, and if Louise Monterra maybe, if her name isn't on your radar just as much, put it there, because she is one of the most decorated and most active competitors on the scene, especially in these last few years. Louise has seen a return to the competition mats in full form. Really impressing against the biggest names in the business. She didn't come back however many a year or two ago to the competition mats and look for easy matchups. She went right in there against the biggest and best that on the no-gi scene, who's number one could offer, since she's obviously been making her name, putting it back on the map again at IBJJF. She's been handling our GPs, so that's super fun to see her in there. And with a potential Fiona Davies match at the end of the bracket, that's one to really have your eye on.
Louise is one of the best, and Fiona is absolutely in the spotlight right now. So yet another, you can really call both of these decorated women veterans, but Louisa is kind of that stalwart. She's been there for a while. She's defending her, especially at Pans, right? She is a multiple, again, I want to say 8-time Pan champion. She's going to be holding down the line there against Fiona, who is coming into Pans looking to prove that she is the reigning lightweight world champ, but she's looking, both of them are defending what they've built, right? It's a great matchup. We could go on and on about the black belt divisions. Obviously, we've been doing that for the last 2-3 weeks. The black belts start on Saturday, March 25th. Yep. Those who qualify for the finals will continue to compete on March 26th on Sunday. But before all that, all of the color belts got to take the mat, right? Pan starts on Wednesday the 22nd. It continues the 23rd, 24th, and then the black belts go. But there's so many incredible prospects in the color belt divisions, in the brown belts, in the purple belts, even in the blue belt divisions that kind of go unnoticed and unappreciated. But it really is some of the best jiu-jitsu, and a great way to dive into, pay attention to the trends that are coming in jiu-jitsu is to watch what the purple belts are doing. And not all the purple belts, but especially the purple belts who have been competing since they were 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
The ones that, won their first title, blue belt title when they were, 16, 17, 18 years old. Those are the ones we're keying in on. We have a list of top color belts to watch, and they will, again, all be competing on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday. So let's kick things off with the lighter side of the male brown belts. And come on, you know where we're going.
Yeah, one name has to be on your mind, Cole Abate. But obviously, Cole Abate is not the only athlete here that we're excited to see. It's fun to see him go on the mat at any point in time. He is signed up for the brown belt lightweight division, but he doesn't have just an easy road to the finish. Cole Abate has found himself at the on the opposite side of plenty of colored belts that, while Cole may have made his name by taking out black belts, he still has plenty of competition even here on the IBJJF scene where, maybe people expect him to just walk through a bracket, right?
Yeah, and this is, it is his first major at brown belt. Now, he did the LA Open just a couple weeks ago. He won that. Not surprising, maybe. He ended his purple belt career on the top of the podium at Euros. Now he is stepping into the brown belt division at a major at Pans, where one of the many athletes he could face is the reigning European lightweight champion, Thiago Saboya. Thiago looked phenomenal. He also entered into the absolute category. I think he earned himself a medal spot there, or he at least hit the quarterfinals. And every change in belt rank for Cole Abate brings about new tests, right? And it gives these athletes an opportunity to validate that they are as good as they are, right? Because Cole Abate tends to be this kind of measuring stick for a lot of these athletes where, Cole comes to purple belt. It's his first time competing at purple belt. Everybody wants to prove, no. He is not the only great purple belt. I am also here. And it's the same thing. He raises up to brown belt. It's all of these lightweight brown belts opportunities to say, okay, you all know who Cole Abate is. You should also know who I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Speaking of which, just to bounce down to the other athlete at brown belt you should be keying in for in the lighter weight divisions, Maurice Ramirez. Maurice Ramirez potentially shown a huge spotlight on himself, not for winning Worlds in 2021 at purple belt, but for winning Pans in 2022 as a purple belt because Cole Abate was in his division. He had to beat Cole Abate in the semis to earn that title.
Yeah, absolutely. Maurice Ramirez took out not just Cole Abate, but he also got the win over Cole Abate's teammate, AOJ's purple belt at the time, Gustavo Ogawa. Is that correct? Is that how you say it at Pans? I had spoken just previously when we were mentioning Cole. Again, not all of these colored belts, there's colored belts that can and are looking to take out names like Cole Abate. Now it's just a different division, right? But, it's not like we saw Cole go undefeated at purple belt. So there's plenty of storylines here that really make, Cole Abate. There still has to be question marks around it. Now, obviously, Maurice Ramirez is not going to be in the same weight class as Cole this time around. He is down there at featherweight. He is a Marcio Andre brown belt. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he ends up stacking up with that division. Right now, he's seeded number 3 with a first-round bye. He's looking at a potential second-round matchup with, athletes like Jonathan Barrow, Matthias Lopez Ferreira, but we're not going to see the Cole Abate matchup there at brown belt that maybe I would be excited for, but, plenty of other great matchups.
There are so many other great matchups for Maurice. And just to kind of sing Maurice's praises a little bit more here, right? After he won Pans, he got promoted to brown belt, and I think 2 months later competed at Worlds where he took third in a stacked featherweight division. That's not to say that this brown belt division, this featherweight division, is in the bag for Maurice, right? Because he has potential opponents in Eduardo Granzado Dudu from Checkmat and Marco Mendez from Dream Art, 2 of the top brown belts competing right now. So these divisions are always they're always changing so dynamically because at this point in the story of jiu-jitsu, right, athletes only stay at a belt for as long as they have to.
Yep.
They get to a belt level, they run through everything, and then they move up. So these divisions are like who gets caught in the mix, right? Because
Yeah.
Maurice is on his way up, as is Dudu, as is Marco Mendez. Like all of these athletes are just trying to get to the next level.
Yep.
So it's anybody's game. It's not just here at the lighter weight divisions of brown belt. I want to move up to the men's heavyweight division, which features athletes such as Hyron Gracie, so many others, but I want to start with Hyron. In the super heavyweight division again, he was a finalist. He took silver at brown belt in the absolute division at Euros. He took third in the super heavyweight division. One of the top seeds here.
Mm-hmm.
The number 1 seed, I believe, is Nico Magličić
Mm-hmm.
of Atos, who I think he won the absolute world title he won the absolute world title of brown belt last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a loaded division. Nico's teammate Tainan from Atos, probably the man to beat in the ultra heavyweight division, I would imagine. Also the man to beat in the absolute division. He will be he's a decorated brown belt. I think he'll be a monster up there. And then I'm really keying in to this heavyweight division.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Rookie black belt Doriayun from Checkmat just earned his brown belt after winning Nogi Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Lucas Lira, in his debut under the Dream Art banner, he moved from Fight Sports. He's most well known as a Nogi competitor, but going to be cool to see him in the gi representing the new team. And then, of course, Francisco Popsadero. Talk about team moves. Francisco recently moved to AOJ. He is probably the heaviest competitor at AOJ, or heaviest recognizable face at AOJ at heavyweight. Most of their athletes are medium heavyweight or much lower.
Mm-hmm.
But going to be interesting for me to see how his style, how at his size he embraces the AOJ style.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we did there was talk about 3 different weight classes. Just a heads up, that's heavyweight, super heavy, and ultra heavy. But those 3 weight classes are really fun to talk about because many of the athletes feel like it's kind of a given that they sign up for the absolute if they register there. So any of these names, though, whether it's Francisco Papasadero or Hyron Gracie or Matthias Tetu, how do you say that name? Tainan. I'm so sorry, Matthias. Or Tainan, if the brackets work out how, for the fans, any one of these guys, all 3 of these guys, we could see in the absolute. It's very normal. I know Hyron is one of those athletes that since we've been watching him at blue, since we've been watching him at purple, he has come up and consistently, put his name out there for those absolutes. And I think it's going to be fun to see that brown belt is no different here. Hopefully.
Speaking of the brown belt absolute divisions, actually, before we get any further into that, I want to talk about the women's brown belt divisions.
Let's do it.
And let's just talk about kind of all of them at one. The lightweight for me, and potentially one of the best potentials to hit the podium in the absolute division, is Emily Pakulski here from Unity.
Mm-hmm.
Emily, longtime absolute contender. Great to see coming from a lightweight, and she's just a submission machine. I think having the knee bars unlocked at brown belt has only increased her ability to perform, but she's a great back taker. She's got a phenomenal guard, really does it all. Kind of a perennial dark horse maybe out of Unity in the brown belt lightweight divisions. But I want to shine a light as well on just 2 more that jump out at me. Shelby Murphy from AOJ.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't been a brown belt for very long, but she is a very decorated competitor. And Abby Pontes coming back to Pans, looking for that gold. Has just missed her a couple times at light featherweight.
Yeah, super fun. I know you had mentioned, all these athletes are really fun to watch. Shelby Murphy, I believe she's just 19 now, coming on and taking on, the brown belt women's division. That's fun to see, especially these new names coming out. But we have talked about some of these other names, like you said, like the Abu Pontes, like the Emily Pakulski. I'm really excited, especially for the athletes like Emily. She is one of those almost silent killers. She doesn't have an Instagram or social media, which is always so fun to see because she's such a dynamic, exciting athlete. When I was going to these IBJJFs, I was the guy that was having to put everyone on Instagram or get their highlights, and everyone was coming to me, hey, did you get that match? Did you get that submission? And all the time I had to be like, no, I didn't get it, whatever. Usually they just didn't do something exciting enough, right? And they wanted that tag. But Emily, every time she went on the mat, came away with a highlight reel, and she never had an Instagram or anything
Connor's
that I could
chasing her
shout her
down.
out, man. I was always trying to, and she always had to remind me, no, I don't do that social media stuff, whatever, which is just like a badass way of doing it. You come off, collar choke someone in a highlight, and then next thing you know, come up, be like, oh, no praises, don't worry about it, So super fun. Really excited to see those divisions go down.
Absolutely. Emily is one that I expect to enter the absolute.
Every time.
Yeah, for sure.
She's not even that big. She's like she's like a small girl, and the matchups she gets in the absolute look rough, but she makes them. She wins them
and
somehow.
she climbs, right? She gets her way toward or near the podium.
Yeah.
Almost every time. But there are 3 that I imagine will absolutely 100% take a shot at the absolute title based on A, just how well they've done in the past in those divisions, and B, let's just get to it. Giovanna Jara.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She's now registered at heavyweight. She has not been a brown belt for very long, but she's already won just about everything there is to win. She's running out of titles to win. I don't think she can yet qualify to be a black belt, but she just steamrolls everybody. I think she got her brown belt in, what was it, March of last year?
Yeah,
so
something very recent.
I would not be surprised if she gets promoted on the podium here if she qualifies. I don't know. Maybe she'll wait for the world title. Her longtime nemesis, Nia Blackman, also a heavyweight out of the UK, has done very well at purple belt. I think Giovanna has stood in her way of success at brown belt, but Nia is constantly growing, constantly getting closer to being able to take out Giovanna. That is always a match I expect to see at the heavyweight division. They seem to be chasing each other into and out of divisions, but they always meet up at the absolute division. And then the maybe less known contender who you should definitely keep your eye on is Eloisa Oliveira. She's the middleweight brown belt. Man, her judo, her throws, her submission hunger, her just desire to win by submission. I have so much footage of her throwing people to the mat and jumping on an armbar.
I love that.
And it's the kind of thing we want to see. She is, I hate to keep throwing this out, she's the dark horse, I think, in the absolute division this year. Giovanna and Nia are 2 tough tests, but I think Eloisa is a close third in the running for the absolute title.
Yeah, absolutely. And any of these names, we shouldn't just be watching for the sake of watching the brown belts, right? Because that's interesting. However, we've been talking about plenty of upper weight black belt women that don't always have the level of competition around them that we're hoping for. We want to stack those names. So this is the next generation of the people that, can go on to challenge a Gabby Pisania, that can go on to, challenge a Yara, whoever it ends up being. So super fun to see.
And let's take just a little further look into the future, right? Let's take a look at the women's purple belts coming to Pans later on this week. And I want to start here. The division that gets me most excited is the lightweight division, which features Kiana Clay, Iris Feliz, Karina Lagana, Emily Martins, and Giovanna Amaral. Now, all of those names, if you don't follow the purple belts and the former blue belts as closely, not going to blame you, but you should be keeping your eye on, for example, Kiana Clay, who's a blue belt world champion and a submission machine out of Gracie Baja. Who knows how this division stacks out? It is one of the most loaded female divisions of any division coming to Pans. But I could see her up against Karina Lagana, who is a Pan champion already out of TLI, Crazy 88. She won Pans last year. I believe she took 3rd at Worlds. Iris Feliz, sister of Igor Feliz, also a really deadly purple belt. She had a great blue belt run, as did Emily Martins, as did Giovanna Amaral. So this division is just
stacked.
Yeah, it's bonkers. Also want to call out the light featherweight division.
Yeah.
Specifically because of Tainara Soares.
Tell me about it.
We talk about these lightweight athletes jumping up to the absolute, but it's rare that you see a light featherweight athlete taking the podium in the absolute division. I think at blue belt, she won in absolute division.
Damn.
She at least took second, but typically Tainara will win her division by all submissions, then get to the absolute. And as a light featherweight, which by the way is 118 pounds or around there, she will climb the whole mountain, get to the final, make it to the semifinal at the very least, and winning everything by footlocks, by submissions.
Yeah. Do you think as a small athlete, climbing the absolute podium is easier in the gi realm versus the no gi realm?
I don't think it's easy anywhere.
Yeah, sure.
She does have a great spider guard, and she trains a lot with A-Rod. A-Rod, of course, one of those athletes who, as a featherweight, as a long-time light featherweight, likes to jump into the absolute division. So maybe not a surprise that Tainara engages in the absolute division, but always surprising to see her do so well, despite we have prior evidence of her doing well in the absolute division. Just crazy to see somebody that small conquering a division with opponents that large.
Love to see it.
Any other purple belts you want to call out?
Man, we got some here. I know good friends with Sophia. Sophia is a rooster weight. She came out, I believe I watched her primarily on the blue belt circuit, where she's a very small competitor, but she goes out there like a Tasmanian devil and try and rips everyone's head off. So shout out Sophia. Excited to see you out there. On top of that, the Orende clan has, they have Austin Orende, Damian Orende. They're very well-known competitors across the IBJJF circuit, sometimes even reffing for them. But Cameron Orende, the youngest of them, she is a featherweight coming into the Pans this year. Excited to see her take on the family flag and throw it into battle.
Long-time juvenile competitor, finally stepping up to the adult realm, and I would imagine taking heads already. One more I want to shout out here, if you don't mind. Tamara Toros. Tamara Toros. This year is her first year at purple belt, but last year at blue belt, she completed the very rarely completed Grand Slam, right? And we've mentioned this before. She won Euros, she won Pans, she won Brasileiro, she won Worlds, and she got promoted soon after. I mean, how can you not at that point? But those athletes that are able to accomplish all of those victories in one tend to be some of the best and most reputable at the next belt level, whatever that is, right? So blue belt Grand Slam winner should be considered one of the most dangerous, one of the favorites to win whatever purple belt division they enter.
Yep. Absolutely. I know we have a little bit more here, but I think one thing I'm super excited about is talking about next up, the men's purple belts. I know that we had talked a little bit about this online, but is there any specific athletes here that have you necessarily excited?
Let's start up with the heavier weight categories, I think middle and up. Enzo Silva.
Okay.
Doesn't get as much praise as I think he should, but he won Pans at blue belt. He won Euros at blue belt. I think he did quite well at Worlds. Might have won Worlds at blue belt. Enzo Silva is another just open-ended, throw everything out. No, almost zero regard for the risk he's taking. Just throwing submissions at the wall. Athlete. Gotta love to see it. Enzo Silva out of Renzo Gracie. Just now, that's something you can get away with at blue belt, right? It's going to be interesting to see if he can still get away with that open-ended game at purple belt in the middleweight division, where some of the potential opponents he faces are, I've picked out here, Corey Dorsey, the younger brother of Elijah Dorsey out of Team Lloyd Irvin. Corey Dorsey, he looks quite heavy for a middleweight. I'm excited to see him make the bump down. I think if he and Enzo hit in the final or anywhere along the lines at Pans, it really is kind of that clash of styles again we talk about, where open-ended Enzo Silva, who just throws caution to the wind, versus Corey Dorsey, a little bit more calculated, a little bit more of a strategist, going to try and pick Enzo apart piece by piece.
Love that. Not only do we have some of these upper weights going on, but we still have some returners from the lower weight classes on the men's purple belt side of things. One that I'm going to call out and that I'm particularly excited about is Gustavo Ogawa. He is AOJ purple belt. Last year we saw him close out at Worlds with Cole Abate. Sorry, we had the wrong picture go up there. We saw him close out with Cole Abate at Worlds, and being in a similar weight class from the same team and the same belt level. It's probably very difficult to be any athlete, especially as Cole Abate, you know what I mean? So, but he has found immense success across the IBJJF circuit, and if you're getting to those, Worlds finals for a closeout with Cole, it's got to be nice having Cole, though he's a teammate, though you got to love him. He's over at the brown belt now. Now there is no more question of, am I going to, have my finals match? Am I going to have, a definitive stamp on whatever this run turns out, for better or worse? Really excited for that. He's been on the IBJJF Open circuit. He's collected gold at Rio, at Waco, at the Nashville Open. So, excited to see him maybe step away from the shadow of a very predominant teammate of his own.
That's a good point, because Gustavo Ogawa should not be living in anybody's shadow, right? Gustavo Ogawa is a phenomenal purple belt, a phenomenal competitor. He closed out with Cole at Worlds last year, but they had a very similar path to getting there. They both submitted nearly everybody on the way up to the final, where they decided, all right, let's split this thing. But even at Pans, right, where Cole lost to Maurice, they had a very similar path. Gustavo actually, just as the bracket played out, actually finished second there, where Cole finished third. Maurice, of course, took dual medal. But Gustavo Ogawa should not be overshadowed. He is every bit as formidable in the gi as Cole Abate is. And I think seeing him stick around at featherweight while Cole moves up to lightweight, I think those two will be hand in hand, kind of climbing the podiums for the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
Also want to shout out the lightweight division, where we've got, as we just teased up a second ago, Lisander Lopez jumping in to the purple belt ranks. He made his purple belt debut at Euros. He had a phenomenal blue belt year. Euros was a little bit of a test for him, but looking to see if he will be able to bounce back at lightweight division. He's not the only exciting lightweight coming to Pans in the purple belt divisions. Why don't you shout him out? Our boy Jacob Brooks.
Spatch. That's our boy Spatch from Daisy Fresh, from the Pedigo Submission Fighting crew, is coming to Pans to compete and throw his name in the hat. He is, one of the most active competitors, from the Pedigo team. I know he hasn't always had it go his way, but, this is another time we get to see him go out there and put the Pedigo system, into practice. Also, I think if you're around the IBJJF scene, you just got to love, listening for him in the crowd, because he has become the official mouthpiece for whoever happens to be coaching at the time. He's a great coach, great competitor, great teammate, and we're always rooting for him whenever we see his name drop in the hat. Absolutely.
One more lightweight purple belt I'm tuning into is Luca Ramachi, who we talked a lot about all of these athletes jumping on to the AOJ train. Luca is one of those athletes who has moved out to Costa Mesa, joining the AOJ team, and he has a game that seems to fit that mold already. So I, again, will be interested in seeing how the assistance, the guidance of Guy Mendez, and the whole crew there at AOJ of just top-level athletes elevates the game of Luca Ramachi.
Absolutely.
Just a couple of the many, many tough top-level purple and brown belts. We didn't, of course, get into the blue belts, but there are too many to mention there.
Yeah, we barely just scraped the surface here, guys.
But go through, look through the brackets, look through the divisions. There will be some names to jump out at you. If you don't recognize anybody, now is your chance to watch Pans, watch the color belts, get ahead of the game, and start to keep an eye on who's going to be that black belt talent 2-3 years from now, because it creeps up before you know it. Just the last point on this. I'm so shocked every time I see Ron Gracie as a veteran brown belt now, because I remember not too long ago, I was pretty well into my brown belt when he was a competitive blue belt, when he was, winning Pans and everything else at blue belt, and then all of a sudden you kind of look over your shoulder
and he's standing beside you.
Yeah. So they mature fast, they become black belts fast. It's good to get a perspective on those top level athletes at purple belt, at brown belt, when they're developing their game, so you know what you're looking for when you watch the black belt bracket unfold and you say, how come I don't know anybody here? It's because you haven't been paying attention to the purple belts, the brown belts, the athletes that are going to be the next generation. Now is the time to keep an eye on them to watch where they're coming from.
Yeah, and if that is you this year, if you are looking at those brackets going, who the heck are these guys? I don't know any of these. They weren't in black belt last year. Well, our very own Corey Stockton can help you follow along with IBJJF Pans. There's going to be plenty of ways to watch, not just with the stream, not just with what the things that are going out on YouTube, which there will be plenty of content coming out. But we will have things like live updates, articles, some maybe early round breakdowns of the matches that you got to have on your plate, you got to have on your screen. So stay tuned, follow along, whether it's Instagram, social media, just on the Flow app. IBJJF season is here.
That's what's coming this week. Pans again once more starts on Wednesday the 22nd with the blue belts and white belts. On Thursday, the male brown belts, the female brown belts, the female purple belts take the mat. On Friday, the male purple belts take the mat. Saturday and Sunday is black belts and juveniles. Let's get on, before we get ahead of ourselves, to the news from the week, the recaps. One event I want to shout out, the biggest event I think that happened, two events. Two big events that happened this weekend. Starting off with Subversion Equinox down in Australia. The main event, Ash Williams versus Jeremy Skinner. Ash Williams beat Jeremy Skinner via triangle. Let's take a look at this match as we talk through Ash Williams and his... we need to get Ash Williams on who's number one. He is one of the best athletes coming out of Europe. Has just great wrestling. Watch this throw.
Oh, nice.
He hits the arm drag single. Jeremy Skinner wrestles up, and then I guess the drop toss. Again, more just wrestling up from the bottom.
Yeah, it doesn't wrestle up for long, it looks like. Ooh.
And Ash Williams, I may be wrong on this, but I think he used to be really known as a leg locker. So watching that development, right, going from leg locker to wrestling expert against Jeremy Skinner, who is a really well-known leg locker from Australia. Ash Williams just having a phenomenal year. And, man.
Uh-oh. Are we going to... Oh,
yep.
no.
We're gonna fall off the back here.
I was thinking to a left stretch. This is narrow stretch.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was looking at it.
Yeah. So beautiful. And then he finishes this up with a triangle finish. Right there you can see Jeremy Skinner kind of turns into... Oh, he doesn't catch it there. Fun to see.
Here it is. But you could tell he saw something there, right?
Yeah.
And both of these guys, by the way, ADCC veterans. They both had wins in their first ADCC matches, which for trials winners, not
huge.
Yeah, that's huge, right? Ash Williams, I believe, submitted Gary Toner. And Jeremy Skinner beat AJ Agazarm.
What a good transition. Seems very similar to the one that he had just caught. Waiting for Jeremy Skinner to come up and look like he's trying to wrestle forward, put pressure forward, and just getting caught for it.
It seems to me like it's because Ash forced Jeremy into a wrestling match, right?
Yeah.
Ash was out wrestling Jeremy, and then Jeremy finally gets in on the single and says, I got something here. And Ash says, I have something waiting for you, too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm convinced at this point, like, there is going to be a lower return on investment with wrestling past a certain point, and it does seem to be that moment within the takedown where you can jump for a triangle essentially. It seems to be there everywhere with a lot of these guys, so it's really fun, especially seeing athletes that we primarily consider leg lockers making that evolution, seeing that leap, and knowing this is what needs to happen.
All of that, by the way, coming from a guy who has been practicing his flying triangles.
I refuse to. I actually did it like a day or two ago, and I've just been doing them probably incessantly, like a bad training partner. And for the first time the other day, I smoked my head on the back of the mat, or the back of my head on the mat, and I was like, oh, that's why people don't do them all the time. Okay, so maybe we won't do that as much.
A member of the Edwin Najmi clan, huh?
Yeah, something like that. I'm about to be knocked out here.
So a crazy submission by Ash Williams. Great setup. He will be he's scheduled to face Ryan Hall later on this year at Polaris. More information on that to come. That's an exciting matchup for me too. Again, the generational gap, love to see it. Just the new school jiu-jitsu versus kind of more old school jiu-jitsu. It's tough to call Ryan Hall old school, really, but you get my point. But not the only submission that came out of Subversion Equinox on Saturday night. There were a bunch, but here's one I want to highlight. ADCC veteran Josh Saunders. Let's roll this clip.
I tried to ask about this clip earlier, and I believe Corey's response was, no. Well, we're going to watch this live. So I'm excited to see this. Corey, is this the one you labeled Pez dispenser?
All right.
So Josh Saunders won the ADCC trials in Australia to qualify for ADCC. He is a big boy. I think he lost to Felipe Pena in the first round. I could be wrong on that.
Is there a huge weight differential we're seeing here?
No, it's the same size.
Oh man.
Here it is.
Oh God. He just grabbed him by the chin and pulled.
And ripped. We'll see it again. So
he doesn't even have a second grip.
It's so gnarly.
How's he doing that?
They're just behemoth strength.
Can this guy? Is there anything this guy can do? I mean, I would assume you just got to grab the arm and pull the wrist down.
You got to quit jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Sorry, guy. Like you heard Corey. Man, that is a brutal one. All right. Yeah. So to any of my practice partners or teammates, blame Corey if I start hitting that.
Oh, man. You might get kicked out of the gym for that one.
That's fair.
Oof. Speaking of ADCC, of course, 2 of the 3 here were ADCC veterans. ADCC Open season is in the works. ADCC Open took place in Mexico this past weekend. A bunch of division winners, but 4 that I want to shout out, starting with the ADCC veteran himself, John Hansen. John Hansen put up in 2 matches 63 points. Do you know how hard it is to score 63 points in 2 matches in ADCC abbreviated rules?
Horrifying, man.
Yeah, John Hansen, just a machine. I don't know. Letting a multiple-time ADCC veteran into the ADCC Open feels a little sneaky to me, but I guess it's in the rules, right?
It feels very similar to like maybe the difference between professional and participant that IBJJF sometimes deals with, where it's like you can have a Felipe Andrew hop into the Austin Open, and it's like, all right, sorry, all these dads.
You signed up for the expert division. That's on
true.
you.
Yeah, you're right.
Also want to give a call out to Callan Sabino, who's #1 veteran, Callan Sabino, who submitted all 4 of his matches to win gold at the ADCC Open in Mexico. Callan, I didn't get the full details on the submissions he won by, but his first 3 matches combined for 90 seconds.
Man, that's super impressive.
I would imagine most of his victories were Gogo Platas.
Yeah? Is that his specialty?
Callan's a Gogo Plata guy, yeah.
Oh, man. He got out. If he got out 3 dudes in less than 90 seconds, all from Gogo Platas, give that man more medals than whatever you gave him that weekend.
Callan, let us know.
Yeah, that's fun.
Also want to give a shout-out to Dominic Mejia, another who's #1 veteran. Dominic just won his who's #1, not his debut, technically. I guess now he is 2-0 on who's #1, but Dominic also won, I think, 3 of his 4 matches via submission. And also from Atos, Damian Balderrama won all 3 of his matches via submission.
Man, all 3 very recent who's #1 performances. Now we get to see that same kind of name out there in the ADCC Opens. I personally have some people ask me, hey, Connor, how would I possibly get on a who's #1, right? Well, these names are already out there, right? Any of the 3 names that we just threw out are going to be on the ADCC Open circuit. So you guys better be sniping these guys, or you at least got to try. They're coming out there and showing exactly why they deserve to be on the undercard, why they deserve to be on the main card for that matter. You're going out there and getting it done in 90 seconds in 3 matches and just go Plata and everyone. Super exciting to see. But one last thing. Can you bring up Max Hansen's picture just 1 sec? This man is horrifying. Can you imagine Max Hansen? No, big bald dude.
John Hansen.
Can you imagine John Hansen just coming over there from across it, crouched down? Nah, you gotta. There we go. Bring him up. You're at an ADCC Open. You just signed up. You're like, hey, I want to test myself out, and he's on the other side of the mat. You drop. You drop out of the division. You let him have it. That is a horrifying gentleman right there.
Man, John is a sniper too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He won his first ADCC match. I think, I could be wrong, either injury or pressure at ADCC this year. But at the ADCC World Championships. Yeah. Anyway, before we close out for the day and let you get prepared for Pans, let's take a look at the rest of the upcoming events on this spring's calendar. starting, of course, as we mentioned, with the IBJJF Pan Championships, March 22nd through 26th, kicking off on Wednesday, ending on Sunday. Right after that, we will be dropping the first episode of Season 3 of Daisy Fresh. That airs on March 29th at midnight. So be ready. Stand by your keyboard, your computer there. Get ready for Season 3, Episode 1 of the final season.
So exciting.
Yep. Rise Invitational 11 on April 1st, as is Midwest Finishers 13. April 8th, a week later, Summit Grappling 10. And then just a little while after that, Finishers Survivor Series 3. They've started to announce some of the teams. Of course, teams from 10 Planet, from the Vault, from all over the Northeast region. April 29th, we officially have IBJJF Brasileiros streamed on FloGrappling. It will be the first time it's available on FloGrappling. So the fourth of 4 IBJJF major tournaments is now here. You can follow along live all the action from Brazil, including a lot of athletes who don't really get the opportunity to travel out here for travel issues or restrictions or whatever. Mm-hmm. They can't make it to Worlds. They can't make it to Pans. They can't make it to Euros. But they are still some of the best in Jiu-Jitsu that can only compete in Brazil. So it's a different look, a different environment. It's going to be a phenomenal tournament, as always. Also that week, April 29th, the Emerald City Invitational. This will feature, incredibly, a 32-man 135-pound division and a 16-woman 135-pound division, both for, I believe the prize is $2,000.
Pooh.
And then later on this year, at the beginning of June, the IBJJF World Championships. Again, the fourth of the 4 major tournaments. We've got the full season this year, and that carries on just next week at Pans.
So exciting. Worlds, Brasileiros, we got Pans next week. What more can you ask for? And then Daisy Fresh. What can you say? Aside from everyone, if you have not done your Daisy Fresh watch parties yet, your marathons, get them done, because Daisy Fresh Season 3, Episode 1 is on its way.
Speaking of Daisy Fresh, I want to give a special shout out to Jacob Couch and Michael Pixley, who came together to break my neck last week.
Oh, man.
We'll have footage from that, maybe.
What did Michael Pixley do? Did he do any wrestling stuff?
He forced me to wrestle.
Oh.
So he took me down and just backed away from me.
Yep.
Until he got bored of backing away from me, and then showed me how incredible that Darce and Anaconda setup are.
That is a brutal fix my game to go through. Hats off to you, friend.
We got to rebrand Fix My Game, because it was really just send me to the hospital.
Break my game. Tell me why I'm bad.
Anyway, that's it for this episode of the Grappling Bulletin podcast. Tune in for Pans starting on Wednesday. The Black Belts take the mat on Saturday, and we will be back here on Monday to recap all of the biggest news from that event. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon.